Hi, welcome back. I have another video for you today, this time taking a look at my Cadians. And last video was my Praetorian Imperial Guard, and I thought I'd carry on the theme by taking a look at now my Cadians. These guys here are based on the 122nd Cadian Regiment, who were really only in one bit of lore that I know of, specifically Codex Battlezone Cityfight, which was released around 2002 and focused on giving us rules to play in cities with fluffy city-based rules to kind of modify the game and just make it more fun. Third edition was all about fun. It was not about balance or anything per se. I never really felt there was a huge amount of balance across it, but man, it was fun, and it had all the codexes finished, so that was nice. So these guys here, they use 2nd edition pewter Cadian models, not the newer plastics which came out for the book on the far right, which is the 3.5, I guess you would call it, or it was an end of edition update to the Imperial Guard Codex. It was a test run, I think, for the style we would see in 4th edition, like we saw with Tau and Necrons. They also had these black label codex, I call them, versus the old colorful ones, which all the 3rd edition had up until then. And even Cityfight has that. But Imperial Guard came out near the end and came out with the plastics. It was also a chance to get the plastic Cadians out, which was like a big deal, as Cadians, from what you can see right here, 3 covers, all with Cadians as the central army. There was one other Imperial Guard Codex released at the time I'm just going to mention. It's the Catechins. But because it's a supplement and it's one of those little 20 or 30 page books we used to get, it's not a full on its own codex. It's like Blood Angels or Space Wolves are to the Space Marine Codex back then, where you would still need the main Space Marine Codex. I do have it. I just don't use it. I never liked the list, even though it's neat. It's just not a very good list. It's too gimmicky, and those gimmicks aren't even very good. So back to this army here. I painted them, as I said, based on the 122nd from the Cityfight Codex. These guys were deployed to a planet called Kaizen to go against a Chaos Uprising and incursion. And specifically, these models were shown off in this style in the battle report, which is during the battle for this in the siege of Vogan, the battle for Vogan, which is one of the cities, the hives that are under siege by chaos. And in the battle report, these guys face off against the Night Lords. And I'm not going to get into the book at this point anymore. I want to focus on the army and keep this as short as possible. But it was a battle report I fell in love with. The entire book, the Imperial Guard. 3rd edition for me was all about the Imperial Guard. I dipped my toes in other armies, but I always came back to these guys. And over the years, I've always stuck with them, no matter what other armies I tried out. And these guys especially, as I keep saying, I love them. They look cool. I mean, they've got this... I'll get the camera closer, but just to look at them. These guys have this shadow gray, is what it was called back then, camouflage pattern. That was the base color, with an Ulthuan gray now, but back then Codex gray and black stripes. They had black body armor, black trim, black weapons and metal. They had a bestial brown webbing and packs. And then they had this iconic red pauldron shoulder pad. They all have that. And it's the thing that I think I love about them most. You see it in that art. It's really vibrant and stands out. It's like a really striking contrast to the rest of the dark, subdued camouflage they're wearing, which is designed to blend into a city. But it's one of the things I love about older 40k, which I still love about newer 40k. The models then, and even the models now, they're cool but ridiculous in so many ways. Now, newer models, it's mostly just design. The models are so much better now that they can really get away with just going wild on the details. But back then, we still went wild on the details where possible, and in this case here, it was just a bright red pauldron on guys that are supposed to be hiding in a city. I don't know what the plan was. I don't know who thought it was a good idea, but at the same time, if you look at military history, all kinds of crazy camouflage patterns have been used, and also all kinds of decisions have been made that just make no sense. You know, you've got generals or politicians making choices that are of no use to the men in the field, and I feel like that could be what happened here. It's just somebody said, my men are going to have these red pauldrons, so when I look out of my bunker, I can see them, and these guys are sneaking around a city with a big red shoulder plate. Just one of them, just so I guess they stand out as the 122nd, but, you know, it's just on this really nice camouflage. So, I'm going to zoom in, push up my camera so that we can see them better. What I have in this army to date, and this is about 2/3 to 3/4 of what I plan to paint up for them as far as infantry go. I'll get a little bit more at some point, but for now, this is a good start. I have a large platoon of 4 infantry squads and a command team. These guys are my heavy hitters. These guys are going to hold the back line, and they're going to hammer the enemy armor and the heavy infantry, the marine equivalents, the MEQ, like we used to call it. Anyone who's long-term guard know that you have to have an ability to take down the Marines, the Necrons, the Chaos Space Marines, whatever, the big stuff, the Tau battle suits. These guys here, your las guns, as much as, have got 50 of them, I got 60 of them, whatever the number is here of las guns. In the grand scheme of things, they're not going to do a lot of damage to the big guys. They'll whittle them down, but they're not going to have any, effect on a Marine squad in one round of shooting, and they're going to do nothing to a tank back then. It wasn't like, now where 6s can always do something. So, that's why these guys have las cannons. They have rocket launchers, and every squad has a plasma gunner. These guys here are going to be knocking down my enemies every chance I get, the heavy ones, while the second platoon moves forward or holds back, depends on, what I'm able to do that turn with just heavy bolters, flamers, and meltas. Actually, the command team in this platoon also has meltas. He's the only guy that his team doesn't have a heavy weapon. He's going to be able to move forward a little bit more efficiently, not have to worry about losing my heavy weapon shots to maybe get some tank kills or anything that maybe moved a little bit too close. Big Tyranid monsters, try to go hit them with the melta-guns. Not the most effective tactic, but, that's what the tanks are for, and if the tanks fail, I have to have something as a backup, right? So yeah, this unit here, smaller 25-man platoon. And this is where I probably want to expand, is just get a couple more squads in here. Because then ideally, I'll have enough men to run 2 platoons of 35 and a couple of armored fist squads back in the 3rd, 4th edition codexes. If you're aware of Modern Guard, there's no platoons anymore, so you might not know what I'm talking about, but back in the day, we had platoons, which was a command squad and 2 squads of 10 men. And it could go up to 5 squads of 10 men. So 55-man platoons was a single troop choice, and every single army had the exact same, what you would call formation now, or, back then detachment. The look for an army, how you would build it was 2 HQ, 3 elites, 6 troops, 3 fast attack, 3 heavy support. That was the maximum anyone could have otherwise, outside of special missions. Sometimes it was different, but that was the general rule. And you'd have, your Tyranids and your Orcs who could have the big 30-man blobs. Necrons could have 20. Guardians or Dark Eldar guys, they could be 20. But Marines, most things were, 10 men. And that was your troop choice. You just got 10 guys. Guardsmen, we went with platoons. We had our base platoon of 25 men that went up to 55. So you could, in theory, run 6 platoons of 55 men, or you could use, in this codex, armored fists that were 10 men inside a chimera, and that was the only way to get chimera transport other than for the command teams. But you'd have to take a platoon to take one of those, which is why having 2 platoons of 35 with 2 armored fist squads, I think, is kind of a nice balance. It gives you a couple of good-sized squads to hold back and lay down suppressing fire, a couple of squads to move forward, and if you give the command teams chimeras, they can also move forward and join. So you could have 3, 4, 5 chimeras of men that could move up, and the command teams, you could give them more special weapons, assault weapons, than you do heavy weapons, so that they can disembark and really provide serious firepower. Also, back then we didn't have orders. Like, it wasn't like today where, leaving command squads with your platoons was as necessary. Just because, they would deploy together. That was the other big thing. Platoons all went down at the same time. At least I think they did in 3rd edition. I only just started playing it again, so maybe I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they all went down at once. But anyways, you would deploy them with their command team, but he could go off and do whatever. So that's kind of my plan, have that, but we'll get to that later because that's not super important for this video. The models themselves that stand out, you have the 2 officers back here. We have the shotgun officer. He's one of my favorites. I really like this guy. I think another of the Pewter regiments had a guy very similar to him, or maybe even the exact same, possibly the Mordians. And over here, this guy's got a power weapon. I think he might be technically a sergeant. Same with like these guys, with the waving people forward with a bolt pistol or a las pistol. But I like to use that guy as an officer. This guy definitely is an officer, the shotgun guy. And then I have Captain Fane. He's actually Colonel Schaefer of the Last Chancers that is painted up to join this regiment. If you notice, all my guys I've brought up or have gotten close to, the eyes are not painted. It's one of the only thing left to do besides touch-ups and fix where the paint is chipped. I'll do that eventually, but I just did not feel like painting like 80 guys with purple eyes. Because Cadians have purple eyes, if you don't know. Yeah, this guy, Colonel Schaefer, Last Chancers, that's another video. I have the rest of the models, but basically it's a special unit of all unique infantry models, both in sculpt and rules. They can do their own things, and there was a special mission where they would go around and essentially they would face off against like a big army by themselves, and they would be able to do certain special things, and they could do everything from like they could steal enemy vehicles for one. They had one guy that could steal anything. I remember stealing a Land Raider once, and my opponent did not think that was funny. I did, but it's just something that we got back then. So yeah, this is Captain Fane. He's from the Cityfight battle report, as I said, and I decided to mimic this army as best I could. So all the models are pretty much as they were in the battle report. His command team has an attached heavy bolter squad. That's not from the book, but it's just I have the heavy bolters, so he has them. Otherwise, it's just a couple of lasgun guys. One has a radio, a flamer, and then this sniper is technically not 2nd edition proper. He's a 3rd edition model, but he's nicer than just making one random guy a sniper by giving him a a scope. That's all they do. They would just give like this guy here a scope and say that's a sniper. I decided to get a proper one, and we did in 3rd edition by the end get really nice ones like this. Yeah, that's about all I wanted to say about this. I'm going to have maybe a video talking about Guard codexes. I don't think I'm going to get into all the codexes. Maybe I will. I do like the old codexes a lot, but I like the Guard codexes. Cityfight's a Guard codex because we're on the cover and we're in the battle report, and we had the best rule. We could combat squad. We got to do what Space Marines do. We could split our squads in half and have them fight independently once they're deployed. So that was also cool. And yeah, if there's any thoughts or comments on the video here. Oh, one last thing. These two guys. These are Griffin crew. Um, Griffin is a mortar tank, heavy mortar, and I have one that I'm painting up. And once I get the interior all painted, I know what it looks like. Their bases will be painted to match, just so that they're not plain black, but also that it matches what's in the tank. So they're pretty cool. This guy has this big radio, and this guy is in charge of, I guess, pressing the button to lob a mortar. Yeah, the tanks and stuff are going to come later, and they'll match what's in the battle report plus a few extras. So yeah, anyways, back to what I was saying. This is the end of the video. If you have any thoughts on what I could do different, this is a new layout for my lighting. The position is not the best because it's on my computer desk, but it lets me get lighting from 3 different angles. So if you think that does make a difference, I think it does, but if you also think it makes a difference, let me know. If there's anything I can do to improve that, let me know as well. I'd like to get one above as far as lights go, but I just think I'm out of light options at this point. Yeah, once I have kind of covered all this, I don't know what else to say, so thanks for watching, and if you have any thoughts or comments, please leave them behind, and I'll get back to you. Thanks very much. Have a great day.